Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anisah Utami with student number V012010. Today, I would like to present about translator competence by PACTE. And this presentation would be my final exam project in Advanced Theory of Translation. So, first of all, I would like to tell you what is translator competence is. The first one, I choose the translator competence definition by Oktay Esther Journal, and the journal entitled as a model of translators' competence from an educational perspective. The concept of translation competence is a term covering the various skills and knowledge that a translator needs to have in order to translate functionally. And one of the primary purposes of translation education is to measure and assess the acquisition of translation competence. And then the second one, I choose the definition of translation competence by PACTE. PACTE defines translation competence as including an array of knowledges, skills, and abilities which vary between individuals and which would never find their way into the notion of linguistic competence. Here is the 6 translator competence by PACTE. There are bilingual subcompetence, extra-linguistic competence, knowledge subcompetence, instrumental subcompetence, strategic subcompetence, and psychological subcompetence. The first one is bilingual subcompetence. This competence is about the translator abilities, include linguistic, pragmatic, and sociolinguistic competence. Linguistic competence is when the translator can translate start from the word, phrase, close sentence, and the source from the source text into the target text. And then the pragmatic competence is when the translator can understand, can know about the expressive function of, in the text that he or she translated. And the sociolinguistic is about the dialect, both in source text and target text. Here is the example of the bilingual subcompetence. When you're climbing a mountain with your friends and you run out of food, so you will ask your friend like, do you still have some food? And it will be translated in Indonesian like, apakah kamu masih punya makanan? This example contains 3 aspects of bilingual subcompetence. There are linguistic competence, pragmatic competence, and sociolinguistic competence. Linguistic competence used when the translator translates from English to Indonesian, start from the word, close sentence, and sentence. And the pragmatic knowledge used when, pragmatic competence used when the translator know that the mean of that question is not only to know if there is any food left, but someone who asks that question wanna ask some food for her or himself. And the sociolinguistic used when the translator can translate the you word with kamu, because in Indonesia you can equal with kamu, Anda, Bapak, Ibu. It depends on the situation. And then the next subcompetence is extra-linguistic subcompetence. This competence is about the translator knowledge about the general word knowledge, domain-specific knowledge, bicultural, and also encyclopedic knowledge. The example, in a source text, write an I blah 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 having authority under the Marriage Act 1961 to solemnize marriage, and it would be translated in Indonesian with saya bla 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 yang memiliki kewenangan menurut Undang-Undang Perkawinan tahun 1961 untuk mengesahkan perkawinan. This example contains 2 knowledge. The first one is specific knowledge, and then the second one is bicultural knowledge. The specific knowledge is used when the translator know about the kind of text that he or she translate, and the bicultural knowledge used when the translator can replace the word melangsungkan with mengesahkan, because if the translator just translate the source text in a literal way, it would be melangsungkan, not mengesahkan. But in Indonesia, melangsungkan mean you are the one who do the thing. So you are the bride if you are in a marriage. So translator choose mengesahkan, which is more acceptable in Indonesian. And then the next one is knowledge subcompetence. Knowledge subcompetence is about translation, how the translation function, and knowledge about professional translation practice. The example, the translators who have longer experience in translating text will have more good translator competence. And then the translator will know about what should she or he doing in some situation because they have learned about it before. So the translator will know the things that he or she should doing if he or she found any difficulties in translation process. And the next one is instrumental subcompetence. Instrumental subcompetence composed of skilled knowledge and skill relate to the tools and trade in the profession. The example is the translator use many kind of tools or another instrument for doing their translation process. The translator sometimes use the kind of smart gate, computer, dictionary, and many more to translate their text because this kind of tools will help the translator produce the good translation result. Strategic subcompetence, and then the strategic subcompetence is about all the individual procedures, conscious and unconscious, verbal and non-verbal, used to solve the problem found during the translation process. The example, is in the source text, written the Burj Khalifa elevator time to reach the observation deck on 124th floor is only 1 minute, and it will be translated in Indonesian. Waktu lift Burj Khalifa untuk mencapai dek observasi di lantai 124 hanya 1 menit. The translator used 3 strategies to translate the text. The first one is establish equivalent, when the translator translate each word in the source text through the target text. And pure borrowing, when the translator translate the Burj Khalifa into Burj Khalifa in Indonesian, because Burj Khalifa is the name of a place, so there is no equivalent in Indonesia, so we can borrow the name in the target text. And the last one is linguistic compression, because the is an article, but in Indonesia, we don't have article. So the translator can compress the article in the source text to the target text. Like the Burj Khalifa just translate into Burj Khalifa, and the observation deck just translate into deck observasi. So there is no more the in Indonesian. And then the last one is psychological subcompetence. The psychological subcompetence was defined as ability to use psychomotor, cognitive, and attitudinal resource. For example, the translator should be caring about their personal psychological, and the translator must be able to manage their mood, mind, health, time in order to produce a good translation. And the translator sometimes need to take a break time to avoid the stress, and finally they can produce a good translation result. To make sure that the translator ability is good enough, the translation result must fulfill the 3 translation qualities. The first one is accuracy, and then acceptability, and also readability. Accuracy is when the translator can translate 100% message from the source text into target text, and he or she not doing many reduction from the source text into the target text. And then acceptability, when the translator can translate the text from the source text into target text, but it sounds natural. So if the translator translates from English to Indonesian, the translation result would be sounds natural, when the result read by native Indonesian. And readability is when the translator can translate the text from the source back into the target text, and there is no mistyping or something like that. So the result can be easy to read by native Indonesian. And this is the source that I use to make this presentation. Yeah, that's all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.